So today we are not going to be playing the game, but today I am going to be reacting to uh people that reacted to. I see like Curry Kids react to him. His name is Horror Shorts Party. I've like seen like a couple of his stories. You know the that Christmas one with the Grinch and what's that one? Oh yeah, that Arthur one, which is my favorite one out of all of them. It's is Terrence Nicholson in here? Oh yeah, Terrence Nicholson.
안녕. 오랜만이야. 얘는 아직 똑같아.
Is this?
화장대에 앉아서 즉흥적으로 해보려고 카메라를 켰습니다. 아, 시원해. 아직 머리도 안 말렸는데.
Classes began and I had nowhere to stay. For 2 days straight, I did nothing but look for a rental, but to no avail.
Has Horror Shorts Party been doing this? Have been like doing the same character? Cause the same character, cause the only character that I remember is the Family Guy one.
Email it seemed like good news. I got an offer to stay in a room from someone I didn't even remember reaching out to. Unfortunately, the listing had terrible reviews. Lots of people saying things like, got the heck out of there 48 hours after my first payment, don't ask why. Or, 48 thumbs down, a nightmare. I was disappointed, but I didn't really have much of a choice. I called them to confirm the moving. They answered quickly, but didn't talk for several seconds. Hello, is this Soo-Bin Kim, the landlord?
사람들이 모두 이걸 보고 있으니 넌 뚫어내야겠다고 생각해.
Hello? Are you there?
That,
Hi. Yeah, I'm here. Are you
I've-
Thomas? You wanted the room?
Japanese?
Yeah, just come over and move in tomorrow. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just pay me cash.
Tomorrow? Really? Wow, thank you. See you then. I only heard what I wanted to hear. I hadn't even seen the place yet. I was just that desperate to find housing. The next day, I packed all my stuff into my car and made the drive. I met Soo-Bin Kim inside the house. She was really good looking, in a heavily made up fashion trend follower sort of way. She showed me my room in the bathroom and everything else. Then she said,
It's just you and me in here for now. Nobody else wanted a well-priced room, I guess.
I didn't say anything about it, but I thought it was pretty strange that nobody wanted to live here. I mean, I knew the reviews were bad, but the place itself...
I have a feeling that the girl is probably the reason why nobody doesn't want to stay here.
And what might be wrong with her?
It just feels like
The
it.
only thing I noticed was she never seemed to pay much attention to me. But that's kind of a good trait for a roommate. By nightfall, I didn't care anymore. As I finished brushing my teeth before bed, I saw a pale light coming from down the hall, spilling out from Soo-Bin's room.
Whatever you do not open
I
it.
walked down the hall to see what she was up to. Her door was open and she was sitting on her bed, watching a video on her laptop where some woman was speaking Korean. It was past 9, but she had a full face of makeup and was brushing her hair like she was about to go out. I approached the side of her bed and leaned over to see the video.
그래서 오늘 튜토리얼에서는 메이크업 루틴을 신속하게 보여줄게요.
Isn't it?
I don't know about you guys, but I do not know a single thing about
It's
Japanese.
morning in Korea. The video just
The only thing I know about Japanese is their food.
So the title of the video would come up. All the characters were alien to me. The only thing I recognized was the number 48. Then, right at the 48-second mark of the video, it glitched. It was like a strobe effect. How quickly the video buffed, flipping the same 5 or 6 frames of her brushing her hair. I don't know why, but it gave me chills. It played some kind of trick on my eyes. I kept thinking the poor girl was about to slash her own throat with the comb, but then it would go back through her hair for a split second, only to threaten her neck once more in the next frame. Is there something wrong with the Wi-Fi?
No, she's still talking. And look, the video bar is still moving.
It was so strange. It was just some corrupted video file, but it was captivating. We watched it for almost a full minute, until at 1:48, it finally stopped. Soo-Bin went back to brushing her hair, returning to her habit of acting as though I didn't exist. I no longer felt welcome in that room. I left and went to bed with that glitch flashing behind my eyelids
Oh.
and went to sleep. I woke up to the sound of something breaking. There was no going back to sleep. Some kind of animalistic growling penetrated the walls of my room. I shot up out of bed and went to open my door. I saw that there were no lights on in the house, but something flickered from down the hall.
How's the house?
I instantly knew it was that glitch playing on a screen somewhere on loop.
난 죽을 거야. 난 죽을 거야. 난 죽을 거야. 난 죽을 거야. 난 죽을 거야.
Oh my god.
I looked down the hall to Subin's open bedroom door. She was standing there crookedly, holding desperately
What is she
on
doing?
the door for balance. She was silhouetted by the pale flickering of the broken makeup tutorial. Her hair was a mess, but through it I could see the unnaturally wide whites of her eyes as she locked her gaze onto me, laughing like a psycho.
Man, I need an RPG. Freakily.
I heard the sound of water hitting the floor. No, it wasn't water. It was urine. Subin lost control of her bladder. She slowly crumpled, landing on all fours with her stomach pointed toward the ceiling. and her
Oh,
back hurt so severely
no.
that it snapped.
Oh, hell no.
She charged it.
Whoosh. Let's get the fuck out of here.
I jumped back and threw my door shut. She slammed into it and began striking it with her body, all the while making this awful sound that was some mix of enraged growling and agonized screaming. I had no idea what to do. I grabbed my phone and my door keys and opened my window to jump out onto the grass below. I sprained my ankle, but with all the adrenaline in my system, it didn't slow me down. I crashed on a friend's couch. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't go back there. I tried to tell my friend.
Nice job, bro.
But he didn't believe a word of it. I called Subin a dozen times, but she never answered the phone. My friend tried to convince me that it was all in my head, a product
In
of
your
the stress
head?
I put myself through. He offered to let me stay with him for.
If it was in his head, then he must be dreaming.
For the next 48 hours.
But if he
I
was
tried my
dreaming, you
best
gotta
to
hit his
relax and
ass in the
figure out
head.
what had actually happened. Then, at midnight, my phone rang. It was Subin. All I could hear over the phone was sobbing and screaming in Korean.
나는 48에 묻어 있다. 나는 48에 묻어 있다. 나는 48에 묻어 있다. 나는 48에 묻어 있다.
She wouldn't respond, like she hadn't even realized she called me at all. I woke my friend up and had him drive me back to the house. I had to show him that I wasn't crazy, that this had all really happened. But when we got inside the house, it was worse than I could have imagined. Subin was on the floor, drenched in blood
Bro.
that spilled from a gaping gash.
Oh,
The knife was still in her hand. Ever since then, whenever I close my eyes, I either see Subin or that woman from the makeup video. Apparently, she died around the same time, about 48 hours after posting that glitch video. But I think it was more than glitched. It had to be cursed or something. I don't know the significance of the number 48 in Korean culture, but seeing it gives me chills.
oh, it was Korean. My bad.
아 시원해. 아직 머리도 안 많이 났는데.
Okay, that was fire. McDonald's. Is that a pink hair girl?
Working at McDonald's has ruined my life. I thought it would just be a way to
Why?
save money for the future while I studied at my
I
local
mean-
college, but it turned out to be the thing that ripped my future from my grasp. It all started in the summertime. I was working
What's
the
wrong with
drive-thru
McDonald's?
window,
I mean, they
which
may
is
have
as
terrible
mundane of a
customers,
routine as
but
anything else you can do at
it can be
McDonald's.
good.
All the orders were
But they
passed
are
through
better-
my
but they are
hands
not
in
better
the
than
car
Burger King.
windows in one monotonous blur, just like any other day. But despite the sheer number of people
Is that
who
you?
passed by me during that shift, There was one individual.
If that's
who
you,
stuck
then
out.
they
The
look like
driver of the vehicle
that
she
dude
was
from
in
Proud
was nothing
Family.
special, just her whipped boyfriend. But her, I
Ugh.
remember her. She had this awful helmet-looking wig of ketchup red hair.
I'll
Just
smack that
did
wig
not
out of her
go with
head.
the rest of her style whatsoever. I tried not to stare. I looked up to the screen where the orders came through to see what they got. Her boyfriend got a Big Mac meal with a large Sprite, and she got a 10-piece McNugget meal with a large High C. That may not seem relevant, but I only say this because I know for a fact that I did everything within my responsibility to make sure they got what they were supposed to. I handed over the drinks first. Then I held out the bag of food. I expected her boyfriend in the driver's seat to grab it, but instead, she reached over and snatched it out of my hands, giving me this dirty, ravenous look as she did it.
Are you
I said
big?
some weird things in the drive-thru, so that barely registered anyway. Have a nice day. They sped off out of the drive-thru, and I thought I'd never see them again. I was wrong. The woman with the ridiculously red hair walked inside not a minute later.
Who you think
I
you
saw
is?
her as I was grabbing a McFlurry cup from the front. She was standing with her hands at her hips, impatiently
premium
waiting
burger.
to speak to a manager in a very evident manner. By the time I'd made the McFlurry, the manager was with her. I wasn't really paying attention, but I could see she was being nasty for no good reason. I don't know what kind of day the manager was having, but he wasn't having any of this woman's attitude. They started screaming at each other. You come into my establishment and you insult my employees. What the hell do you think you're doing? I ought to take you out back and rip your damn wig off, you
Ooh.
piece of shit. Out of the corner
I
of
said
my
the same
eye, I
thing,
saw her
too.
spit in the manager's eye, to which he slapped her in the face.
Oh,
He immediately
dang.
regretted throwing hands and disappeared from the counter to go hide in his office. That's when the crazy woman went berserk. She started hollering at the top of her lungs, pushing stuff off the counter and throwing random objects into the kitchen. She threw over a cup of straws, spilling them all over the floor.
What, y'all think I'm stupid? Think I can't count? I got a 10-piece, not a 9-piece. Maybe I rip off one of your fingers and see how you feel about it.
She was making an awful scene. At that point, I couldn't help but look. Several of my co-workers went to the counter to try and calm her down or get her out of the
What
restaurant.
do you mean calm her
She
down?
was inconsolable. She pulled
Jump
on
her.
one of those plexiglass barriers that hangs in front of the cash register
Oh, no.
and hurled it towards somebody. It nearly stabbed their eye out. Still, the corner of the plexiglass sliced them in the temple, spurting
Dang.
blood all down their shirt.
Let me see that witch that gave me my food. Come on, she needs a good beating.
I realized she was talking about me, and that's when she jumped the counter. She locked eyes with me at the window and lunged, but she was caught by a small crowd of employees who got a hold of her and threw her out the door. But she came back.
Bro.
Several times she came back, actually. Every time we thought she was gone, she would storm back in and throw something else at the people in the kitchen. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the manager came out and yelled at her. The cops are on their way! You really want to throw your life away over one chicken nugget? At that, she disappeared. The cops showed up about an hour later, asked a few questions, and took a copy of the security footage. I thought she would eventually get fined a few grand or spend a few nights in jail, but we never got word that she'd been caught. 3 or 4 months passed, the season changed, and I pretty much forgot about the whole thing. Pretty much everyone moved on, even the cops. Then, one day, I was working the
Is she
drive-thru
back?
and I saw her. She came back with her boyfriend and ordered the exact same thing. My heart sank to the floor when she came up to the window. I recognized her immediately.
But
She
what's
still
up with
wore
that ugly
same
smile?
awful red wig, but this time she was even more insane looking. She stared me down with this creepy, deranged smile, like some kind of psycho.
She looks like the clowns, y'all know the killer clowns from space.
She just took
If
her
y'all
food
know what
and
it
drove
is,
off slowly, looking at
then
me through the
it's just what
window
it is.
until
But if
we
y'all
were
know what
out
it
of
looks
sight.
like, but if
I
y'all
thought
know
about calling the
what those
cops,
killer
but I
clowns from
figured
spaces
she would
is,
leave once she counted
that's
all
her.
10 of her nuggets. It gave me a jolt, forcing me to remember her littler rampage back in August, but after a while I wasn't thinking about it. Several hours passed and the sun went down. Then I was done with my shift. Right before I walked out the door, I remembered that I'd seen her that day. Just as a precaution, I got out my key
I thought you
and
forgot.
clutched the little pink bottle of pepper spray. I'd had this thing since I was a sophomore in high school, about 6 years, so I was sure it was expired, but I figured it would be good enough. I pushed open the door and walked out with long, quick strides headed for my car. Within seconds, I heard her walking behind me, racing to catch up with me.
Use the pepper spray.
I was sure she was about to attack. Instinctively, I turned around and sprayed her straight in the eyes. Without bothering to linger for any reason, I turned back and ran to my car. As I fumbled with my keys looking for the unlock,
Y'all heard her screaming?
I looked back to the woman with the insanely colored hair. She was still standing, but she was staggering. I saw her wipe her eyes vigorously and spit on the ground. Then she looked straight at me.
Ugh.
Her eyes were bloodshot, all the skin around them swollen and red and covered in thick tears. She bared her teeth like a rabid animal, drooling. She screamed horridly, then charged at me unhindered. I pulled open the car door and jumped inside, locking it behind me. I thought I was safe.
What is that hair,
Before I
bro?
could even calm my
Put that hat back
nerves
on.
to start my car, I saw a rock bashing into the window, smashing it like a wine glass. I shrieked, and then her hands came through the window. They grabbed me by the hair and yanked me through the door, all over the shards of glass and dropping me on the pavement while still grasping at my scalp. She struck me in the face repeatedly, using her nails like claws, cutting my face and eyes, splitting my lip and scarring my cheeks.
This will teach you to disrespect me, you little punk. You gon' remember me.
I don't know how long I was taking that for. I didn't fight back. I just clutched my car keys so she wouldn't steal it. Eventually, I heard my manager come out and start yelling. That's when the crazy woman dropped me to the ground and ran off, disappearing once again. And what's worse, the police still haven't found her. They don't care enough about me to go looking, I guess. But she ruined my life. I quit my job after that day, and I moved back into my parents' house. I even missed my college graduation because my face was so messed up. I'm too scared to go outside. I'm just worried.
You're outside right now.
Into her, and she'll recognize me all over again.
The customer begins to argue with a worker over her order. There is no audio, but witnesses told police that the customer became verbally abusive toward the staff. That's when the situation turned violent. The customer tried to get behind the counter and had to be pushed back out the door by other workers. When she couldn't get behind the counter, she started throwing things. For the next 4 minutes, the woman with the red hair threw everything she could get her hands on over the counter. Wet floor signs, a trash can, plastic order numbers, another wet floor sign.
So she has red hair. Okay, I thought she had pink hair.
And heaves it over the counter. Then she finally walks out.
I shouldn't have smacked her. Hooters. I don't know about you guys, but I never tried Hooters. I think I'm never going there.
It's 12150 Research Parkway. Tell me what happened. Oh my God. I was driving into work, parking my vehicle, and this gentleman, he's lying on the ground next to her. Okay. Oh my God. Where are they? Are they in the parking lot? They're in the parking lot. Is it?
Says Sam.
Oh my God. I don't know, ma'am. I can't go closer.
Why is it moving? Why is it moving so quick?
So you're on your way, right? Yeah, ma'am. I need to stay on the phone, okay?
Let all of what I am about to say be a warning to everyone who hears this. Hold your loved ones close. Keep them safe. Do whatever you have to do. Just don't let them get hurt. There's a whole terrible world out there full of sickos, stalkers, and violators, and most of them are hiding in plain sight. But for as long as the people you love are safe and sound and by your side, the world isn't so bad. It's only when that all gets taken away from you that the world becomes a dark, cold, and lonely place of constant suffering and endless despair. All of it started when she started working at Hooters. We were just dating at the time, but we'd been into each other for a while. I didn't really like hearing that she started working somewhere so exploitative. But it was her decision, and it wasn't like I didn't trust her. I was just too concerned for her safety. It turns out that my worries were well-founded. I'd give anything.
Are y'all
just
not
to go
screaming?
back and find
Because I see
some
that
way
thing
to
in the
keep her out
background.
of that horrible job. But at the time, when it really mattered, I didn't do anything. It didn't take long before I started to hear about the regulars at Hooters. To tell the truth, it always made my blood boil to hear about it. Those neck-bearded creeps who come in almost daily and chat with the waitresses and pretend their little crushes are going to get them anywhere. Liz, on the other hand, didn't seem to mind at first. I'll have a sloppy feast between them cheeks.
What? Oh. And also, I think I had a voice crack at Wood.
One
So,
regular in particular.
hold on.
This old guy named Serious Problem. Liz said he used to be so charming that they actually had some kind of minor friendship going on. But of course, Roger
What's up
took
with
that
these
out of
hairlines?
hand. He asked her for her phone number almost
I'm not
every
talking
day.
about Roger. I'm talking about the dude on the left.
Gave it to him.
Look at that
Instead,
dude's hairline.
she gave him an old email address that she never used just to appease him. At some point, Liz said she agreed to give him her work schedule because he preferred to be served by her over anyone else. Whoa, don't you think that's a little private to be giving away?
He's gonna come in every day anyway. If he wanted to know, he could just figure it out. Why not save him the trouble?
Yeah, but
Why does she sound upset?
it's just, don't you see why it's weird for him to want to know that in the first place? I guess working at Hooters makes you get used to a lot, because that seemed to be the first moment in which she really caught a strange feeling from this guy. Unfortunately, by then, it was probably far too late. You know the old saying about throwing a dog a bone. Things only escalated from there. Roger would hover around her and follow her to her car, and even try to ride home with her. Then, he started getting handsy, trying to reach for Liz's waist while they were talking, and getting very aggressive when she didn't allow him to put his hands on her. That, of course, is very much against the rules of Hooters. So
Check the
Liz
back of
threatened
his
to
head.
throw him out of the restaurant over it. I can still hear the conversation in my head, the way she relayed it back to me. I'm more of a loyal customer than you'll ever get. Do you know how much I tip every day? I shouldn't be treated like this.
This isn't a brothel, Roger. Just because you tip a lot doesn't mean you get to treat me like a piece of meat.
After that, Liz put in a word with her managers at Hooters.
Wait, but that's like that was so
Get them to
familiar.
ban Roger from the establishment altogether, but they didn't listen to
I
her.
think it was like on
Of
those. I
course,
think it was like on
they
those other
reprimanded
episodes.
Roger about the rules, but they were worried.
When are we
that
gonna
if they
see
started
those
banning
Family Guy
regulars,
titles?
They'd lose their whole customer
I'm missing
base.
it already.
It just goes to show what Hooters really cares about. That's around the time that Liz remembered the email address she'd given to Roger. When she opened up the inbox, it was filled to the brim with hundreds of manic messages, calling her horrible names and accusing her of being a liar, and this and that, and all sorts of deranged stuff to say about a sweet girl like Liz. When Roger kept showing up at her work and harassing her every day, she went to the police and showed them all the emails. But they just shuffled her over to the information desk, where she filed a report that would probably collect dust without ever being looked at once.
How much
The
dollars
police
was that?
ignored her too. That's when she finally quit Hooters.
Because that thing was
We
like
thought
plastic.
We were done with all the Roger drama right then and there. Our lives were starting to take off together. Liz started a new job as a teacher, something she'd always wanted to do.
Teacher?
I even proposed to her.
A
as we were getting out
teacher?
of college, and it
I mean,
felt like
I
the
wanna
right
do-
time
I don't
to
wanna
start
judge.
sealing the deal. For a few months,
But
things were
teacher-
pretty idyllic. Life was shaping up to be pretty nice. But then Roger showed up once more. Somehow, beyond anyone's ability to guess, Roger found out where Liz was working and started harassing her there too. The emails continued, of course.
Bro.
And they only got worse. Roger started sending threats and ultimatums.
I'm not gonna lie.
To have her. With Roger showing up to the
Roger
school
look
she
like,
worked at, she didn't want to put any of the kids in danger
I forgot
by
his name.
having him hanging around. And I was ready to get as far away from him
I'm
as
not gonna lie.
possible. So
I
that's
kind of
when
remember now.
decided
He
to
kind of look like
escape to Orlando.
Schwartz, that
It
bald
wasn't the
dude from
greatest
Henry
thing to have
Danger.
to do, but it helped us feel safer. We both got jobs at the same place, which was nice, except for the fact that it was a customer service call center.
But it say looks more fat.
Sucking. For some time, we managed. Roger continued to send his emails, but we thought he'd lost track of us and wouldn't be a problem anymore. When we moved into our new house, we got married. We were able to go on our honeymoon undisturbed and live our lives like normal people. For a few months at least. But again, somehow, Roger found us. But this time, he showed up at our house.
Oh!
I'm ready for my meal. Get the hell out of here or I'm calling the cops! Liz found a letter in our backyard with no postage on it, which meant that it had been delivered by Roger himself. Liz didn't let me read what was in the letter, but it must have shaken her. She called the police and had an emergency court date set up for the next day. We compiled all the evidence we had against Roger. All the emails, the workplace harassment, all the interactions Liz had with him, and how he followed us from town to town relentlessly. Somehow,
Town to town? I thought you were moving house to house.
Logic. The judge thought that was all insufficient evidence to instate a restraining order. Rather than put a restraining order against Roger so that we could finally have some safety in our lives, the judge scheduled a hearing with Roger in the following weeks, which meant the judge notified our stalker that we attempted to get a restraining order filed against him. Liz and I were both paralyzed with fear when we realized this. We had no idea what Roger would do when he found out about this, but we knew it wouldn't be good. We tried our best to wait it out patiently, but didn't get the chance.
I'm not gonna lie.
The last time I saw Liz,
he kind of like George
in
Washington.
the parking lot of our place of work. Her shift started an hour
I'm talking about the
before
judge.
mine, so she got out of the car and went in first. But within a matter of seconds,
Cause that wig looks fake.
she called me, distraught.
He's here! He's here! Roger's here! Come get me quickly, please!
I jumped out of the car and ran for the entrance to the call center, but I couldn't get there in time. I heard the gunshots and I knew there were so many gunshots. It was like each one shattered my soul and then crushed the remaining shards into dust. When I got there, Liz was on the ground in a pool of blood, full of bullet holes. Roger was there too, but I didn't pay any attention.
Oh, I thought that Roger got
His
shot.
brains were splattered across the pavement, but I had no time to rejoice. The love of my life was dying right before my eyes. Somebody call 911! Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. I love you so much. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. I love you. We rushed Liz to the hospital, but it was too late.
What happened is a little bit over a year ago, she worked at a Hooters restaurant near the beach. Roger Troy, a 16-year-old man, 61 years old, and she was only 23.
Is chasing this 23-year-old girl?
It seems like that he became obsessed with her. He would write her harassing emails, follow her around, even stop by her house. She filed for a restraining order with the judge.
Hello? Is she still alive? Oh, no. Hello? I love you. I love you. Give her CPR. Breathe. Okay? Put your phone down. Calm down.
Bro, this was so good. Oh my god. But that last one was so sad. Sometimes it's the ones that's pissing me. That looks scary. Okay.
In every school, there's a weirdo. And I don't mean those kids who just dress weird or have uncommon interests. I'm friends with those kinds of people, and they're cool. The kind of person I'm talking about is in another realm entirely. Those maladjusted freaks with hard, empty eyes who don't get along with anybody, who just sit motionless day in and day out. The breed of blossoming psychopaths that gives you
those
chills
black boys
before
in the
it's
middle.
These days, from what I can gather from my little brother's current high school experience, those kids are a well-known threat. But just 10 years ago, when I was a freshman in high school, there hadn't been quite as many school massacres, and we just had no idea what kind of vicious animals we were dealing with. My little brother says it's an unspoken rule to not mess with the quiet kid. They leave them be, as in, don't poke the bear. Unfortunately, my generation...
Most of the quiet kids I've been seeing were nice.
We would make fun of those kids a lot, and not just behind their back, but to their faces too. We mimicked their weird looks and strange mannerisms and made them the laughingstock of the whole class. And in the end, somebody paid the price for it. And to make matters worse, that person surely deserved it the least. I remember my first half of my freshman year rather fondly. Things were innocent back then. I enjoyed my classes and teachers as much as could be expected, and I was slowly becoming part of a new friend group. The one exception to all these warm memories was a kid I'll just call Phil. We were in the same math class for 7th period. Aside from him, that was my favorite class. It was easy math at the end of the day with one of the school's best teachers. A young, pretty woman who went above and beyond to engage with students on our level, even having us get on computers from time to time. Everyone in the class was friendly with her, since she wasn't a huge stickler for the rules, but instead would go the way of being nice to keep us on task. Well, everyone except Phil. Phil wasn't friendly with anybody, and none of us were friendly to him. He spent most days in total silence, staring off into space, probably knowing that we'd tear into him no matter what he said. But one day, the nice teacher tried to get him to pay attention and participate by calling on him at random several times.
Phil, could you tell the class the formula for a linear relationship?
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Miss, I don't think Bill is very good with relationships.
Dang.
Graduating from college. My biggest regret in life is contributing to the mockery that tormented this kid on a daily basis. Not because I feel bad for him, but because I feel guilty for what he became because of it.
Pipe down, everybody. There's no sense in being rude. I'm sure Phil knows the answer. It's probably just hard to think when people are making fun of you.
You're right, miss. I'm sorry.
All right, Phil. I know you're
Probably
smart
don't mean it.
so you should know this. What's the shape of a quadratic?
I think Phil thought he was going to be off the hook after the first one, based on his reaction to the second question. He seemed to make no effort to speak an answer. Rather, it looked more like he was exerting every possible ounce of effort to contain himself from screaming and throwing some kind of tantrum.
Do y'all see him
Could you
shaking?
please stay after class? I know you're smart enough to know these things, but I also know you've been having a lot of trouble paying attention. I'd like to review some things one-on-one.
For the rest of the class, Phil wouldn't take his eyes off the teacher. Every once in a while, I glanced over to see if he was still staring. And every time, Phil got a little scarier. I could see veins bulging out from his head. He held his jaw so clenched that the muscles flexed visibly under his face. His eyes were bloodshot from so much unblinking staring, and his whole body tremored ever so slightly. When the bell finally rang, signifying the end of the school day, I was very much relieved to get out of that room with him. Despite the
teacher's
fact that
dead.
my own day wasn't yet over. Not to mention that
I don't know
got
about you
punched
guys,
earlier in the
but
day for
I
talking
feel like
too much
Phil
and
is
another
gonna
wrestling
try
match.
killing.
I
Let's
wasn't
just
in a
say
rush to
4
get
shirts
there.
high.
I was
But
the last
I
person
feel
to
like
get up and
Philip
walk
is
out of the
either gonna
classroom.
kill the one
Phil. Right as I heard the door
who say he don't know about
a chill
relationships
ran down my spine.
or the teacher.
But I had no idea why at the time. I put the feeling behind me and walked very lazily to the other side of the school to serve my detention. An hour or so later, I was finished up and ready to go home. I walked out of the building toward the rear of the campus, but since I missed the school bus for detention, I had to go through the bus loop and out the gate to find a stop for the city bus. I remember it was a really nice sunny day, so I was taking my time.
Why'd you go to
Soaking
detention
in the
for?
rays of the outdoors after being stuck inside all day. That's when I noticed something really strange happening way on the other side of the parking lot. I saw Phil rolling what looked like a trash can over the curb and down into a ditch that led into a patch of woods. He looked like he was really struggling with it, but he mustered whatever scrawny strength he had. Right after he kicked the can down the slope into the trees, he wiped his forehead and looked all around, like he was worried about being watched. Of course, I stopped in my tracks to watch whatever this was unfold, and Phil looked right at me. He was several hundred feet away, but that made no difference. I could see the expression on his face clearly. Another sharper chill ran through my whole body. That look.
If you don't run,
my soul.
you must be a white
I
person.
ran up the parking lot without looking back and prayed that he wouldn't find me while I was waiting for the bus. Thankfully, I didn't see any more of him that day. But very unfortunately, I wasn't able to maintain my ignorance about his actions for long. That nice teacher didn't show up the next day. But really, she never left the school, unless you count rolling down a ditch in a trash can as leaving. Phil followed her into the bathroom and slashed her with a box cutter, among other things that make my stomach turn. It was all over the national news, and now I'm forced to live with the guilt of how I contributed to it for the rest of my life.
You see graphic testimony describing the moment Colleen Ritzer's body was found buried beneath a pile of leaves and debris. We also heard from a former student who was one of the last to see the young math teacher alive.
When she was in a recycling barrel, Chisholm is seen on surveillance reeling from the school bathroom to the woods.
All right. Another McDonald's story. Okay.
I have been in television for 24 years. I'll just kind of get to the and I have very seldom been at a loss for words. Sir, but I don't even know what to ask you first.
When I was a kid, I didn't have much money. My mom raised me by herself while she worked 2 jobs, so I spent a lot of time alone in our apartment. I had to fend for myself as far as making food and finding things to do. For food, I frequented the closest and cheapest thing there was, the McDonald's around the corner. It was easy, I only needed a handful of quarters to get a meal, which was all I had.
Big burger.
As for my entertainment, one thing I did
Bro, this
have
man
was
of burgers
a
at
desktop
McDonald's,
computer
they
with
used to be
CRT
so funny.
monitor. It was already old by those days' standards.
Like a
This
Horse
was
Shorts
before we
funny
had
made Horse
smartphones.
Shorts burger.
Despite that, to me, access to the internet was an absolute luxury. The big thing on the internet back then was chat rooms. Stuff like Facebook and Instagram didn't exist yet, so just about the only way to talk to people besides email was a chat room. There wasn't much to it, just some basic information like their name and age. And most of the time the chat
Name
room
and age?
community based, so you'd be talking to people that live somewhere in your city. I thought it was a pretty neat way to potentially
Bro,
meet
there's
people
already talking about some
before.
name and age
Though
to
it
the
did end up
internet.
having some problems. There was one guy I remember meeting very clearly. He was really cool to talk to online. His name in the chat room was John. He was around my age. We traded messages almost every day for a few weeks, and we even played the original Counter-Strike together. Then one day he said he wanted to meet up and get something to eat.
What's Counter
I
Strike?
had nothing
Oh,
but
that other
as
game.
usual,
Oh, it
so
can't.
I agreed. But I had to ask if you lived close by.
It's that game
I didn't
that's
have
like
a car or a
Fortnite.
bike, and I couldn't really afford to take the bus. I was a slight bit cautious, so I didn't tell him my home address. I just asked if he could meet me at the McDonald's by the big intersection near my place. He said that was no problem, so we agreed to meet there at 6 o'clock that evening. I have to admit I was pretty excited. I never met any of the people I talked to on the internet before, and to be honest, I didn't really have many friends, even at school. I had high hopes to hang out with this guy more regularly, even before I'd seen him for the first time. I raided my mom's coin jar for some quarters, just enough to get a Happy Meal as usual. Then I walked out onto the street around 5
That's how much a
minutes
Happy
before
Meal
it was set to
is?
meet. I got to the
I
McDonald's
haven't had
at
Happy
6,
Meals
but
in
didn't
years,
see
but
him.
I don't remember
I kept an eye out for the
Happy
green
Meals
jacket
being that
John
much
said he'd be wearing as I
being
took a seat
a
at the
dollar
table. The
in
McDonald's
quarters.
employees recognized me as I was there almost every day. I decided to wait for John to get there before I ordered, knowing I wouldn't be bothered by the workers. After a few minutes, I started to get a little anxious. I didn't have a cell phone as they weren't very common back then. I was just sitting there in silence, looking around.
So he was like, so
That's when I saw a strange-looking man wearing a trench coat standing by the
that's
window,
John.
staring at me. The moment I made eye contact
That is
with
John.
him, he began shuffling towards me. until he was standing right next to my table. The table was about waist height on him, and he held a Happy Meal box right over the edge. You look hungry, little boy. Would you like something from my Happy Meal? No, I'm good, thanks. I'm just waiting for someone. Oh, are you waiting for John? He's my son. Without asking, the man sat down right next to me in the booth.
That's your
And
son?
there was a perfectly good seat right across from me.
I know he looks
shifted
more
the
worse
Happy
than
Meal
you.
box and set it in his lap. Even though the table was right there, he leaned in and mumbled in my ear, like he was about to say some kind of secret. He called me and said he was about to ride his bike to meet somebody here. I know this isn't the greatest part of town, so I thought I should drive over to make sure everything was safe. But I figured he'd be here by now. Well, I hope he's okay. But while we're waiting, you should eat something. I bought this Happy Meal for the two of you. Come on, don't be shy. I really didn't know how to feel about the guy. I was pretty young at the time, now that I think about it. I guess I didn't really have a proper sense of people's intentions. On the one hand, he was really invading my personal space. But on the other hand, his story made sense to me.
Just smile.
I mean, how else would he have known the
Look
name
at
of
his
the person
smile.
I was waiting to meet? What made me give him the benefit of the doubt, though, was the growling in my stomach. I knew I could have paid for my own meal, but I didn't think there was anything wrong with getting a little free food. Okay, sure. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's it. Just reach in there and grab something at random. Be fair to John. He opened up the box as it was still in his lap, but wouldn't let me look inside. Desperate for some food,
No.
I reached
No.
in, but as far as I could tell, there wasn't any food at all in there. I grabbed onto the only thing that was in there, but it definitely wasn't anything that was supposed to be in a Happy Meal. It felt weird, almost clammy.
Oh no! I just realized what it is.
Is everything okay over here?
Neither of us heard her walking up to us. We both jumped a little bit. I took my hand out of the box and the man very frantically closed it up. The employee stood sternly with her hands on her hips. Yeah.
Bro, wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Enjoying some quality time with my son. I barely had any idea what was going on. But I didn't want to cause any problems with the McDonald's I ate at almost every day.
So disaster.
He said he was my friend's dad. You see up there? My other son is on the other side of that window. You see him there?
You lying waste of space. Get out of here, I'm calling the cops.
Right then, the man threw the Happy Meal box to the side and ran out the door. The woman who must have recognized me, I'm assuming the manager, didn't let me leave. She asked for my mom's phone number and called her.
Yes.
It felt like I was in trouble for something, but I didn't know what it was. The woman told me to wait until my mother came to pick me up. So, I waited. And in that time, John never showed up. And I eventually realized that he never existed in the first place. But the weirdest part of all is, when I picked up the box the man had left behind, irrationally hoping for some food, I realized that it was more than just completely empty. There was a hole cut out of the bottom about 2 inches wide. I had no idea why anyone would do that at the time, but I eventually connected the dots. My mom came a couple hours later and took me home.
And you didn't wash your hands.
Happened, but a few months later, I figured it out. We were watching the show where they would catch predators, and on that night, the face of the man they caught was one I recognized. It was the man in the trench coat, and where else had they caught him but another neighborhood McDonald's.
I have been in television for 24 years. I just came to get something to eat. And I have very seldom been at a loss for words. Sir, I just came to get something to eat. But I don't even know what to ask you first. I just came to get something to eat. John, we've been through this before. What are you doing? I've got the chat log again.
This was nasty. This was nasty.
When you go to the dentist, have you ever wondered why it's so common to see some little kid bawling and screaming out of fear in the waiting room? Have you ever wondered what's going through their heads? What torture they must be expecting to endure? Of course, most of the time, they're just overreacting, as little kids tend to do. But don't write them off just yet, because there is something real to that childish phobia. I'm sure everyone can relate to having to sit through something uncomfortable at the dentist. But there have been some dentists out there who really do justify the screams of small children. And I can attest. When I was about 10 years old, I was having some trouble with losing the last of my baby teeth. Well, just one of them, actually. I only had a few left, but there was one that had gotten fused to the bone of my jaw. It isn't actually uncommon. And like me, most people find out during routine x-rays. My family dentist said that most of the remaining baby teeth were fine and would fall out normally, but there was one that would need to be surgically removed. He recommended us to some sort of pediatric specialist in oral surgery. I was nervous about what they called surgery. I mean, I was only 10, but my parents told me they would numb me so it wouldn't hurt at all. And I'd had a regular experience at the dentist in the past. I wasn't one of those little crying kids. I didn't try to get out of it or anything. My main concern was just making sure I would get all my adult teeth. But on the day of, I got a bit anxious. The music in the waiting room was oddly loud, much louder than any dentist or doctor I'd ever been to. My mom didn't seem to notice. She checked me in and found us a seat. And after a little while of being bored in the soulless waiting room, it was my turn. The dentist came out of the back, all sweaty and out of breath for some reason. He had a clipboard in his hand from which he read and called out,
Oh!
Alex, you're up next.
Go on. Get up, Alex.
Look at Bro's
Don't be
teeth, too.
shy.
I timidly stepped toward him, and as I got close, I noticed two things. One, he was really fat, especially in the gut, which was right at eye level. And two, he reeked like he hadn't showered in a long time. There you are. How many teeth you leaving in the office today?
Oh, just the one.
My mom didn't seem to notice what was making me clam up. I
don't know about you guys, but I feel like he's gonna take out all of them.
Everything seemed somewhat normal until I hopped up into the chair and he began to lower me down as he checked over the x-ray one more time. Right after that was when things suddenly went wrong. He didn't ask for me to open my mouth. He just grabbed my face and rested his arm on my neck and chest as he pinched open my jaw to shine a light inside. And of course, that's when he asked his questions. Are you afraid of needles, Alex? I couldn't speak because he was holding my jaw open. I tried to say no, but all that came out was some kind of whimper. Can you stay still for me, Alex? I squirmed from the discomfort, unable to respond. Well, I guess not then. Then, out of nowhere, he started clamping down on my arms and legs, then strapped them into some kind of medical straitjacket. I screamed and tried to break free, but this guy was big. The dentist pushed my forehead down and strapped my head into the device that kept me from being able to move. Then he got to work. There were no shots, no numbing agents, no help from the nurse. He just started cutting into the flesh of my mouth, digging at the roots of my baby tooth. I tried to scream so much, but I almost choked on the blood that was spilling into my mouth. Put that vacuum tube in there and turned it on. I don't think there was any way someone in the waiting room could hear me, no matter how loud I tried to get.
Bro, at least they're censoring it.
Well, that wasn't so bad, now was it? You know what, though? I know I saw a few more baby teeth in there than just the one. What kind of dentist would I be if I only did a quarter of a job?
You can't be talking about teeth, because look at yours.
Screams anymore. I was in shock from the pain. I couldn't do anything. And nobody helped me as that man stuck pliers into my mouth and ripped out 3 more teeth. When he was done, he shoved gauze into my mouth and left without saying a word. For a few minutes there, I was alone, just in pain. When he came back, my teeth were nowhere to be seen. But I was finally unstrapped, unable to stop from shaking. Some random nurse basically dragged me back into the waiting room. My mother lost it when she saw me.
What did you do to him?
I don't really remember what happened after that. I passed out or zoned out, and all I can recall is hearing some shouting and fighting, and getting taken straight to the hospital afterwards, where I finally got some painkillers. My mother sued that guy along with a bunch of other parents when he'd done something similar to me. He lost his license soon after. I just hope he gets thrown in jail one of these days.
A local dentist accused of hurting children in his care has voluntarily agreed to give up his license to practice in Florida.
Investigates a local dentist accused of abuse. He is denying those allegations.
Today, people gathered outside Dr. Howard Schneider's office to protest his dental practice. While our crew was there, one woman walked up and actually put her hands on Dr. Schneider. You see the nurse right there getting him away and took him inside. Then that woman
she grabbed him on his neck. Now we got another Hooters story.
I used to go to Hooters all the time.
Wait, is this
I
the
really
Family
was
Guy?
one of those guys who hung around there every weekend, pining for attention from all the pretty girls and hoping to score a date.
If it's not taking 1 week off.
I should warn you, from my experience, there could be a cost to the
Oh,
habit
it's the
which
Family
you
Guy
won't
one.
see on your tab. Some of those girls are after more than just tips. But don't take that the wrong way. I certainly did. And all the time I wasted in there, I got to know nearly all the girls by name.
Bro, are you?
Strike up conversation as I
You know,
ordered
I'm not
sandwiches
gonna rewind it.
every time.
I'm not gonna rewind
So
it.
often to the
Just so
point
I
that
won't get
I started
canceled.
to know my order before I even said a word. There was this one girl I was super interested in. Her name was Stephanie. I made sure to see every angle of every girl that worked there.
Her name was
And
Stephanie. I
Stephanie
thought that was a
by
boy name.
far. And she was the most popular without a doubt. The way she worked creeps like me for tips. I'm just a sucker for it. I tried really hard to get in close with her. I guess looking back on it now, people would call it simping. But it turned out to be more than just a cringy mistake for me. One night, I called up a friend and asked him to go to the bar with me. Of course, we ended up at Hooters. This
Are
friend
you-
of mine was not so different.
Are you watching?
We backed each other up.
Are you watching a projector?
And after we'd spent a
Because
few hours,
that sure look like a
things
projector.
seemed to be going our way. It was approaching closing time, so the girls had enough spare
I thought
time
Hooters
to
was a
linger
burger
with us a
place.
little longer than usual. I was chatting up Stephanie.
Me personally, I
and
thought
was
Hooters was a
capturing
burger
attention
place
of
at
another
first.
fine Hooters girl. The only problem was, and I'm a little ashamed to admit I caught this, but I knew that Stephanie.
But
was
just
a
the
girl
outside of
who
Hooters,
hated each other.
it doesn't make it
There
look
were
like a
lot of
bar
times I'd
place.
hear them get into fights and get really nasty. So I was surprised to see the two of them together. Still, Stephanie shot that other girl some dirty looks that night. Despite all that, I tried to make the best of it. But then, Stephanie dropped a bit of a bombshell.
Yeah, so I know you've been waiting for the right moment to ask me on a date or whatever, but I'm just letting you know that this is my last shift. So don't miss your chance, Jack.
Wait, what? You're leaving? For what?
I'm going to college, dummy. Where do you think all your money's been going?
Oh, well, I guess you gotta move on. But I'll take you up on that last chance for a date. When are you free?
I'm free as soon as I clock out, babe. And you can bring that cute friend of yours, too.
As she finished speaking, she twirled around and walked away from us. My friend and I dropped our jaws in disbelief, but we chose to believe. This was the best thing that had happened to us in a long time. We closed our tabs and made sure to tip even more handsomely than usual. Then we waited impatiently for our dates to get off work. Finally, we all joined up and left the restaurant, then piled into my car. I remember my head being a mess right about then. With the beers in my system and the girls in my car, I was distracted. The first mistake I made was driving home from Hooters on autopilot, because I had this weird route through some back roads that I wouldn't have taken if I'd been thinking about not creeping out the passengers I had. As soon as I made the turn off the main road onto that dark, narrow stretch into the woods, the car fell silent, and things got tense. Sorry about the deserted road, everyone. This is the way I usually take to get around all the traffic.
Oh, don't worry, Jack. I'm doing just fine.
I was a little confused as to what Stephanie meant by that, but before I could even ask, something else came up. I saw a flash of bright headlights in my rearview mirror, quickly growing as some van was accelerating towards us. Around the same moment, I could hear the distant roar of several motorcycles, which I never heard on this road. I kept looking into my mirror, thinking the van would slow down to avoid rear-ending us, but they didn't. They slammed into the car and sent us flying forward. I hit the brakes, trying to regain control of the car. The van just kept crashing into us from behind until they'd run us off the road. I finally got the car to stop when I saw the motorcycles catch up and surround us before the riders dismounted. Suddenly, there were half a dozen thugs in all black, brandishing bats and knives and guns, all standing around.
What they were
the car in a
doing?
circle.
What did y'all do?
Their move.
Get the hell out of the car! Now! Move it!
I saw Stephanie jump out from the shotgun seat, so I followed suit, abandoning my car with the key still in the ignition. I lost sight of Stephanie immediately. Then I was struck to the ground by someone I didn't even see. A boot pressed against my back and pinned me to the ground. The shouting of orders didn't stop. Actually, they got louder.
Out now! Come on, you two, don't be stupid! Get out of the car! Out of the car! We're warning you! Get out now!
I I turned as far as I could.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know about you guys, but that gun,
Still in the backseat
but
of the
that gun
car,
that guy has,
and
it counts like the gun from Gary's mod.
just frozen for some reason. No matter how many times they were told to get out, they just didn't. One of the thugs smashed the window. Another window was shattered, and another. And at the same time, I could hear all that.
Is that
I
Peter
also
Griffin
heard
with the
glowing
bat?
splashing, like somebody was pouring water all over the ground. For a second, nothing happened. I thought they were getting out, but then I heard glass breaking again. And this time it wasn't a window. It must have been a bottle. A huge fire erupted from the car. It lit up the scene in an orange light, and I could feel the heat of the fire on my face even as I was pressed against the ground. Then I heard them screaming, burning alive in my car. It took so long for it to stop. When that was finally over, I got yanked to my feet.
Give us what you got, Tom. Come on, strip. Clothes, money, phone. Everything you own is ours. Come on, don't be stupid now.
I did as they commanded, stripping to just my underwear and giving them everything I had. I was still in shock. I couldn't even think about my friend yet. The reality of it was too horrible. I thought about Stephanie. I was worried what they might do to her, but I couldn't see her in the darkness. Not until all the thugs finally let me be and climbed back into their van and got back on their motorcycles and sped off into the night. The last motorcyclist waited for Stephanie to climb onto his back before disappearing. She looked back at me and winked as I could feel my blood boil. She had this planned all along. No wonder she said today was her last shift. And that, my friends, is the real cost of creeping in Hooters. Your belongings, your friends, maybe your life.
Oh my god, this dentist story.
My name is Candace, and I'm a single mother with 2 kids. My daughter Sarah is 7, and my son Tommy is 5. They were both due for their 6-month
Are they
cleaning.
twerking?
Our regular dentist recently retired.
Why is the guy on the
We
level
need
like
to find a
Stu?
new one. Their previous dentist was very kind and always took really great care of my kids, so I was hoping to find one just like him. However, it was more difficult than expected. After months and months of strenuous searching, one dentist, Dr. Teal, had caught my attention. With great customer
Dr.
reviews
Teal.
and a 4.8-star rating, I set up an appointment, not knowing that this would be the biggest mistake of my life. Upon arrival, Sarah got her teeth cleaned efficiently, leaving Tommy to go next. Dr. Teal walked into the waiting room once he finished with Tommy's cleaning, and it was safe to say that it didn't look like he had good news. It's not looking good, Candace. Tommy here has a couple of cavities.
I was afraid of that. I've been letting him brush his own teeth.
It's all right. Don't beat yourself up. They all have to learn this somehow, and these things happen.
Dr. Teal.
Listen, I just had a cancellation if you'd like to get those taken care of right now.
Really? That would be great. I wasn't sure when I could get out of work for an appointment anytime soon.
Great.
Are you gonna be alright while I take your sister back to school?
Mom, I'm 5. I'm not a baby.
Okay, I'll
But
be
you
back
look
as
like
soon as I
Stu.
can.
I checked Sarah out and drove to a McDonald's drive-thru to purchase her a Happy Meal. I figured since
It is
Tommy's a big
diabolical.
boy now, I could take a little extra time. I dropped Sarah off at school and drove back to the dentist. To my surprise, Dr. Teal had already completed all of Tommy's fillings. However, when Tommy tried to stand on his feet, he seemed very woozy and unstable. I know a thing or two about funny gas and how my kids responded to it. But this time, Tommy seemed more agitated than usual.
Tommy, are you okay, buddy?
I'm fine, Mom. He gave me a shot in the gums and I didn't feel a thing. I told Dr. Teal that my son was not acting like himself, and he informed me that they had updated the funny gas formula. With this information,
funny
he
gas.
proceeded to inform me that
What
within
is that?
4 hours, Tommy would be back to his usual self. I'll be honest, I felt a bit uneasy with this response, but I decided to give it time to wear off. I kept Tommy home the rest of the day, and he passed out after eating some lunch. I occasionally checked in on him, and he seemed to be okay, until I went to wake him up to retrieve Sarah from school. I entered his room and gently shook him, calling out his name.
Tommy, wake up. It's time to go get Sarah.
Piss off! Let me sleep!
Thomas Alexander. Don't talk to me that way. I am your mother.
I'll talk to you however I want. Now, while you're out, get me a soda and some candy. I was shocked at Tommy's vocabulary. I grabbed his arm and dragged him to the car while the little squirt kicked and screamed at me. He shouted profanities at me the entire drive to school. And when Sarah got in the car, she had to sit in the front seat so that Tommy wouldn't hit her. He screamed and cursed at me
Smack him
the
across the
entire way
head.
home. I locked Tommy in his room and immediately called the dentist's office. The phone rang numerous times before reaching their already full voicemail box. I decided that I would give him until tomorrow for the funny gas to wear off. That night, I had Tommy sleep in my room so that I could keep a close eye on him. He slept throughout the night, and the next day, he seemed like he was back to his normal self. So I got him ready for school. The day went great.
What is
and I
Brody
nearly
doing?
forgot about his
Brody
hellish
is
behavior from the
twerking.
day before. He even apologized for talking the way he did, and of course, I couldn't stay mad at him. However, the next day, he seemed to get worse. He was more demanding and being extremely rude. At some point, I heard a scream in the kitchen from the laundry room and rushed out to see that Tommy was chasing Sarah with a knife.
Tommy! What do you think you're doing? Mommy, Tommy grabbed a knife and said he wanted to chop the top of my head off.
Get out of my way! I managed to snatch the knife from him, and he ran upstairs to his room, cackling demonically. I comforted Sarah until she felt safe again. I couldn't avoid the sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach that something was very, very wrong with Tommy. He was usually such a sweet kid, and he adored his big sister. Even if Sarah made him mad, he would have never grabbed a knife. I tried calling the dentist again, but this time the number was out of service. I didn't know what to do.
Did he like drug him or
That
something?
night,
What's going
after I
on?
put Sarah to bed, I went to get Tommy from his room. I opened the door and he held up a picture he drew of Sarah with half of her head cut off. Tommy's picture brought shivers down my spine.
This kid is
as I
weird.
Tommy, let's go get Sarah and go for a drive.
Are we getting ice cream?
We sure are, buddy.
We quickly drove to the emergency room and explained the situation to the doctor. Tommy was taken for an MRI, and unfortunately, he came back with some horrible news. Candace, I need to speak with you about Tommy.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, he's not dead or dying, but your son is suffering from some severe brain damage.
Brain damage?
Well, we ran some tests and found that a chemical he had breathed in had crossed some wires in his brain. Has your son been around any chemicals lately?
No, he was at the dentist the other day. He mentioned that he had come out with a new formula in their funny gas.
Which dentist did you go to? I told him about Dr. Teal, and the doctor informed me that Tommy was one of a few patients that had suffered some brain damage after the funny gas they were given. He also told me how the dentist's office had been shut down, and the guy was on the run. My stomach dropped when the doctor told me that they would have to give Tommy a lobotomy. I thought they didn't do those anymore, but apparently in Tommy's case, it was the only option. I eventually agreed to have the lobotomy performed on him. They kept him in the hospital for a couple of days for observation. My sweet Tommy recovered just fine and seemed to be back to himself. A couple of months went by and we thought we were in the clearing.
I bet.
One night after falling asleep, I woke up to something dripping on my face. I looked up to find Tommy holding a cleaver and what looked like a rat in his hand, holding them over my head. I made Sarah different. Come see her, Mommy. I rushed out of bed to Sarah's room and turned on the light. She was laying in her bed with the top of her head chopped off. Blood.
He wasn't lying about chopping her head off.
She looked as though she was smiling, just like she was in his hand-drawn picture.
So that was Horse Shorts party. That was Horse Shorts party. Man. All I gotta say is that I really like that, bro. But yeah, that's it for today. So that's it for today, guys, and I hope I see you guys in the next video, and subscribe to Horse Shorts Party.